Well, you have to admit this. I mean, even though this match is light on action, it is chock full of what we would consider Hall of Fame talent, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about the all stars they had on this, from the Undertaker to Stone Cold to Rock, to Paul White or Big Show at that time, or whatever they called him, Big Show that time. Uh, Vince McMahon, just Edge and
Uh,
Christian, the
Meanwhile,
Hardy.
let me tell you what you're up against. Okay,
Okay.
you guys were in Cleveland at the Convocation Center.
Mm-hmm.
You had Hack, former Sandman, wrestle Prince Iaukea in a hardcore match.
Okay.
Then you had Scotty Riggs wrestle Lenny Lane. Then you had Chris Benoit and Perry Saturn take on DDP and Bam Bam Bigelow to win the tag team titles. Then you had La Parka and Silver King take on Damien and Cyclope in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Then you had Ernest Miller beat Horace. Then you had the Cruiserweight champion Rey Mysterio Jr. beat Bobby Duncombe Jr. by DQ. Then you had Buff Bagwell beat Disco Inferno.
Oh,
And in the main
okay.
event, Sting and Randy Savage, as much as we're light on in-ring action here, we're light on shit people want to see on Nitro.
And that's because as you ran down the names,
Yeah.
6, maybe 7 of those guys, big time stars. We were not
Lot
much on
more
star
stars
power.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's crazy too, Tony, is you've got Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Bret Hart, Ric Flair. I mean, you've got all those guys under contract. They're just not on the program.
Yeah. And they're getting paid a handsome sum.
Sounds familiar. So how about it, man? Vince McMahon trying the North Carolina redneck trying to outsmart the other North Carolina redneck.
Who's supposed to be in this Lions Den match?
Ken Shamrock
Huh?
and Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if Vince came out and tried to stop the match or what. And
No, it's Vince versus
uh,
Shamrock. And look,
see, I thought,
Jeff Jarrett handles business.
oh, on the fucking head.
And there's the ankle lock. Vince McMahon beat Ken Shamrock in an MMA match. Write it down, folks. Eric Bischoff beat Terry Funk at a Starrcade.
Uh,
And somehow, some way, Vince McMahon beat Ken Shamrock in an MMA cage.
there has to be, in today's wrestling world, people would shit all over this, man. Wouldn't they?
Yes. This would die a very painful death in the modern
Mm-hmm.
internet wrestling community.
Yes, there would. Okay. But again, this is the Vince Russo era, and this is what he did. Better for worse. I hate that I'm gonna say something not a lot of people like, but I hated that Russo gets all the shit that he gets.
Yeah,
And I only say that because he is so good to me.
it's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair. Vince Russo worked worked endlessly, tirelessly to put a product together. He did, and was good to me, and was a good guy, and I'm honest about that. So, and you know what I feel about hard work.
Yes.
I, I mean, I know how much effort you've put into your business and to all these podcasts, and I appreciate you. I mean, God, the work that you do, plus having to put up with guys like Silva, Casio,
It's a lot, man.
yeah. Uh, oh, I just saw Jr. put down running like scalded dogs. Just saw that on my closed captioning.
There's the King of the Ring bracket. You see Mr. Ass versus Ken Shamrock, Big Show versus Kane, Road Dogg versus China, Holly versus X-Pac. We know in the end, Mr. Ass is going to be the guy they're going to try to make here as a single star at King of the Ring 99. And then, of course, the night after on Monday Night Raw, The Rock would effectively kill Daddy Ass's singles career.
Killed his singles career?
Yep.
How would you do that? Hurt him?
The worst. It was a promo that people thought Billy Gunn would be pissed about, and Billy Gunn was interviewed about it years later, and he says, "No, I was laughing. It was tremendous."
Okay. And
But
this one interview ended his singles career?
killed him dead. Killed
Yeah.
any momentum he had.
Yeah, Billy is cool as they come.
He mocked him, and you know how Rock does, silly voices
Yeah.
and stuff. And he said something like, "Oh, dear God, my name's Billy, and I just won King of the Ring, but there's one problem. Everybody still thinks I absolutely suck." Place goes bananas. You know, it was nothing, but it was enough where people were like, "Yeah, why did we think he was cool? He's shitty." And I mean, he was such a tastemaker at the time, and every promo he did was entertaining. People were like, "Yeah, Billy Gunn does suck." And then he beat him right after he won King of the Ring, and it was like, well, that's enough of that. So he fell out of favor with someone politically, is all I can guess.
That's unfortunate because Billy Gunn truly is one of my favorites to work with.
A great human being and
Yep. Sure is.
a hoss and a half. You meet him in real life, and you're like, oh, wasn't expecting this.
I told Billy, and I think I've said this on this podcast, but I told Billy this the other day. We got a big laugh out of it. I said, if I ran a wrestling company, you'd be with me everywhere. Not only because of your size and your demeanor, but because you know how to shoot straight with in a business where shooting straight is not always the norm. So we need more Billy Guns in our. So there. May have gotten buried by The Rock, but he has survived, done quite well.
Hey, so I know we don't talk about current stuff, but you know, there's a lot of internet wrestling fans who are paying attention to Natalya. I guess she did a promo on Monday Night Raw last night as we're recording this. She said something like, "Enough's enough and it's time for a change," which is a famous line that Owen Hart used in a promo. And with the Owen Cup right around the corner and her contract expiring, boy, the internet wrestling community is fired up about the idea of Natty Neidhart outside of the confines of WWE. If Natalya were to try her hand outside of WWE, is there anybody in AEW you'd like to see her wrestle? Again, we're not saying it's happening. We're not saying we want it to happen. But I think there's a lot of people who have started a fantasy book. What would her in TNA look like? What would her in Japan look like? What would her in Mexico look like? And of course, what would her in AEW look like? Is there anybody that you think, boy, that could be fun?
No, because I've not seen her wrestle.
Oh, okay.
So isn't that something that fans draw to something like that more than anything else?
Yes.
Fantasy booking, so it could all be an angle, right? So no, there's